Trump got his guy at the end of the day and seemed to, had something to do with it, I guess. He had to do a little arm twisting or phone calling, and Nancy Mace was apparently involved. But just another day in D.C. What'd you make of it?
Connell, that is so true. I mean, Donald Trump said right from the outset that Mike Johnson was going to be the man that he wanted in this job. He did not want to have this linger on as it did for Kevin McCarthy over the course of 15 rounds of voting and, several days. And so Donald Trump, I think, is intent on enacting his agenda. He thinks that Mike Johnson and John Thune in the Senate will be the two men who can help push that through. But Mike Johnson has a number of conservatives in the House who are expecting a better performance in this Congress than they say they saw in the last Congress. And that includes making sure that he uses these two reconciliation bills that will require him to really navigate some tough circumstances. Remember, he has a very narrow margin to get any policy passed.
That's the thing. And Dean, from your point of view, what would you say about that? Maybe that's the lesson learned from today, that it's not going to be very easy for President Trump once he's inaugurated to get something through, whether tax cuts, anything. I mean, I don't know if any of it will be easy.
It's going to be challenging. There was one great moment of bipartisanship, though, that I think needs to be talked about. That's when the clerk read that Matt Gaetz is not returning to Congress, and the chamber applauded. And I'm sure there were some Republicans applauding as well, if you see it. So I'm sure some Republicans are happy he's gone, and almost all Democrats are happy.
Yeah, but that stuff, the stuff he pulled, though, by the way, it's interesting you bring that up. That can, whether they should change the rules and Democrats should support them so that one guy, Gaetz or Massey, whoever it is, can't try to kick the speaker out. What do you think, Dean?
No, look, I think that's up to them. They control the House. If they want to change the rules, so be it. I don't think Democrats should. On those kind of issues, look, that's intra-baseball politics there. But today, like the applauding of Mike Johnson winning is like applauding someone getting a participation trophy. This is the easiest thing. You just get your members to vote for you. And Mike Johnson goes on the stage there and gives a speech saying, we got a mandate. No, if you had a mandate, you wouldn't be sweating every vote. The Republicans lost one seat, a net loss of one seat. A mandate is Obama in 2008 winning a net gain of 25 seats. That's what a mandate looks like. That's why they were sweating today. There's no mandate at all. Bare minimum to control the House and barely controlling the Senate.
Let's debate it. Mandate or no mandate. Take the other side of it, Rob. What do you say? What will it really look like?
Absolutely. I mean, so Donald Trump won 77 million votes. The House Republicans won 75 million. I think that's what Mike Johnson's talking about. There are a number of closely contested races in this country. Let's face it, states have gerrymandered these districts in a way that it's very difficult for any party, whether it be Republicans or Democrats, to have a sizable majority in the House, as we saw in the 1990s or even in Obama's days. So I think that this is a scenario, regardless of whether it's Hakeem Jeffries or Mike Johnson, they're going to be facing
it's
a
Mike
tough
Johnson.
situation.
What can he get through, Rob? Give me something, big piece of legislation. So tax cuts. What can Mike Johnson get through this House as evenly divided as it is? What would you say?
Well, first and foremost, I was encouraged to see that Hakeem Jeffries was talking about securing the border and addressing the border crisis and illegal immigration. So that is hopefully an area where there are a number of Democrats who would come across the aisle and vote for a proposal that Mike Johnson puts forward. Yeah, and then I think, yes, tax reform is another priority. Those are expiring, and Donald Trump certainly doesn't want to see that happen on his watch.
It was kind of interesting, Dean, because we've done segment after segment about the Democrats getting their act together. Now we're talking about whether the Republicans are functional or not, but they're the party in power. The Democrats now have a choice to make, as I see it, and you brought it up before. I'll leave it to the Republicans to get that done in terms of changing the rules. Will that be their kind of modus operandi for the entire Congress, or do they find areas that they can work together so it looks like, hey, we're not just obstructionists, we're getting stuff done ahead of the midterms? What's the play?
Well, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries today in his speech said, we're going to work for the American people. But he drew a red line. They're not going to cut Social Security or Medicare or veterans benefits. They give another tax cut to the wealthy or the wealthy corporations.
Oh, so what will they work on? Immigration. They'll do something on immigration, like the border bill.
There was a bipartisan deal worked out last year. Donald Trump stopped it to help himself in this election. So you have that. If Mike Johnson talked about returning the power to the people, then let's do that. Let's take big money out of politics. Left and the right, both on the grassroots, agree. Big money out of politics, stop diluting our voice, instead of stop having oligarchs run our elections. Let the people have the power, and you'll find support. Democrats and Republicans will support it, and some corporate Democrats won't. But overwhelmingly, Democrats and Republicans, and that's what I'd love to see as priority. Take big money out of politics.
Okay. The question will be, how do you do it? What do you think, Rob? Maybe there is.
Well, and I think this is probably why you saw Mike Johnson come out before the vote to promise that he would take seriously what Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk have talked about in terms of the Department of Government Efficiency. You had 11 Republicans who said that they basically held their nose and voted for Mike Johnson. They've been disappointed in his performance, but they want to see certain things enacted, including banning stock trading for members of Congress. So, yes, I do think that there are issues that members of Congress can agree on. But by and large, yes, there is a division in Washington, D.C., and I think we're going to probably see that more often than not.
Well, they could agree on cuts, maybe. Right, Dean? I don't know that, but they won't agree on what to cut, right? Because that's what you heard from Johnson today. Federal workforce more efficient. That means, they want to, and Elon Musk and others have talked about this, fewer federal workers, more, if that's what more efficient means. But you also heard Johnson talking about, quote unquote, investing in the military. So will the Republicans agree to cut military spending? You'd get a Bernie Sanders in the Senate, and people like that have been talking about it for years. Maybe there are some cuts.
It'll be issue by issue, and they'll see how the impact is. That's how it's going to work. If tomorrow Donald Trump said, I want to raise the national minimum wage, Democrats are going to be on board with that. If Donald Trump said, I want to do paid family leave, Democrats would be on board. If it's going to be culture war garbage, which are demonizing people through legislation, no. Cutting Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, veterans benefits, no, absolutely not. And that's the point of Hakeem Jeffries saying that's what the Democratic Party on the base is.
Right.
On good policy, we'll join with you. There's other stuff. We're not going to play your games. That's not, we're not compromise our values just to say, hey, we had bipartisanship done. You don't do that. You don't compromise your values.
It'll be interesting to see how Trump plays this and whether he picks some issues out. He doesn't have to run again, where he might get some victories that make him look good and helps his legacy. I don't know. But I think a lot of us don't know. Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Rob. Quick break, and we'll be right back. Is that snow? Oh.